Welcome to Flix Revolution, the official show of the Austin Revolution Film Festival. Now, your host, James Christopher.
And welcome to Flix Revolution. I'm your host, James Christopher, and this is the official show of the Austin Revolution Film Festival. And for those of you who have a film to submit, there's really just a couple of days left to get your submission in. Some announcements will come out December 15th. So make sure if you've got a movie, get it in now and just hit me up on email for a discount code. Happy to save a little money in this Christmas shopping season time. And it is Christmas season. This is the first of a couple of episodes that are going to deal with Christmas movies. You can tell that I love Christmas. And in this particular case, Life Day, as it's celebrated on Kashyyyk. Yes, I've seen women naked. Don't get after me with that stereotype. But yeah, I love Christmas movies. If you spent any amount of time with me, you know that I love this time of year. I made one, which we'll get into later. But I like all of them. I like the classics. I like comedies. I've even liked some of the horror ones like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Black Christmas. Though the Silent Night, Deadly Night sequels are objectively some of my least favorite films ever put together. Awful. But I'm also a really big fan of this sort of new genre of film, the Hallmark Christmas movie. And I don't mean just a movie that's appeared on Hallmark. I'm talking about these made-for-TV movies that I think people love, but they treat it as this sort of guilty pleasure. They don't want to admit it. And I know filmmakers are really, really hard on them. My students are like, Mr. D, you teach film. Why do you like movies that are so bad? To which I would say, they aren't bad. I think filmmakers are hard on them for a lot of reasons. One, I think having been one, we like to be a little edgier sometimes than maybe we are. We prefer to talk about caring more about what's going on in Tarantino film than who's going to save the Christmas tree farm. I get it, they're not for everyone. I first discovered them a few years ago when I found the movie Holiday in Handcuffs and checked it out, really, really enjoyed it. Melissa Joan Hart, who doesn't love her, and AC Slater. He's anti-Astro, so I'm not going to use his name. I'm not saying I forgot his name. I'm just saying I'm not going to say it. But it's cute. The premise is Melissa Joan Hart has to go home for Christmas. Her family thinks she's kind of a loser. Her boyfriend dumps her, and so she essentially kidnaps Mario Lopez. That's his name, Mario Lopez, and takes him home for Christmas. Holiday in Handcuffs.
She poked a musket in my ribs, tied me up with furry handcuffs, and drove me to wherever I am right now.
Would the premise work if the genres were flipped? No, but that's really neither here nor there. The movie's cute, it's heartwarming, it makes you feel good about yourself. And that is ultimately all of these movies. That's their goal. When I hear that people say they're bad, to me what that means is they don't really understand film criticism. And teaching film and teaching young film critics, I let them call, when we're doing screenings, they can call a movie bad maybe one or two times. And after that, they have to think a little deeper. They have to look a little harder. And one of the things I think is a key criteria in whether a movie is good or not is what was the filmmaker's mission, and did he or she accomplish it? And I think that's key. I think it's why I can enjoy The Godfather, but also enjoy Sharknado, right? Why I can enjoy The Empire Strikes Back, but still really like An Unexpected Christmas. So I think that's where we have to begin and end.
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
So when I think of a Hallmark movie, the question has to become, if we're going to critique them, is what are the goals of the filmmaker? What do the filmmakers want you to think, feel? What do they want your experience to be afterward? Now, I can tell you that for me, I think why I have become so attached to them is because I find them comforting. I think if we turn on the news for 5 minutes, we are living in the world's most jaded, the world's most just ugly experience as far as just living on this planet, living in this country. So if I can watch a 2-hour and take a 2-hour break and watch something that makes you feel good, that harkens back to a more idyllic state of mind, I'm going to do that every time these days. And I know that's not for everybody. And look, these movies are problematic too. I mean, we know that Great American Country started making movies because Hallmark got too woke. And if you've watched a Hallmark movie, they're not woke, but all that stuff is evolving. But for me, I think the intent is to take a break and to get back to when Christmas actually was the thing we wanted it to be. It's like Bill Murray's speech at the end of Scrooged. You know, Christmas is a time that we can be the versions that we want to be. And in many ways, I think those movies are a reflection of that.
And if you like it and you want it, you'll get greedy for it. You'll want it every day of your life, and it can happen to you.
Now, the criticism you get from filmmakers or film students, it turns out, is that these movies are badly written. These movies are badly acted. And it's one of the few genres where we sort of lump all of them together into one package. There certainly are Hallmark movies that are not as well written as others. There are certainly some that are not as well acted as others. I watched one on Great American Country where the two female leads were great. And one of the male leads, they must have Weekend at Bernie's that guy because he did not have a pulse. But lots of movies have bad writing and bad acting. We would be offended, particularly a lot of people that are watching the show, we're offended by the fact that horror movies are lumped into these really inaccurate packages. And ironically enough, it's a lot of people who like Hallmark movies who are saying horror movies are bad for us, whatever. But we'd not be happy with that. Yet we'll do it with these. I compared them to Sharknado in a way because Sharknado is not trying to be Jaws. Sharknado is trying to be escapist, over the top, and silly. And guess what? It's those things. So if you're looking for something positive, if you're looking for something that will take your mind off of just how nasty the world is and maybe make you think that there's a better possibility out there, I recommend checking one of these out. And like I said, when I consider a Hallmark movie, is they have some on Netflix, some on GAC, some on Hulu, some on Freeform, and of course the Hallmark Channel. One of the ones I really like is An Unexpected Christmas.
Your sister said she thought we broke up and you didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's weird.
Because I haven't told them.
I think it's really, really clever. I think the cast is really very well cast, very well acted. And they do a nice job of doing the whole pretending we're still in a relationship trope and twisting it with a really likable lead. So that might be a good one to dive into. But if you're looking for a break, I highly recommend them. Move past what people say and experience them for yourself, because it's ultimately the best way to decide whether a movie has value or not. And speaking of these movies, our next segment's going to have a guest interview. I don't know why I can't talk. Mike Donis, who one of my ride or dies. He has been on the show already. He will continue to be on the show, but he is an editor for a production company that makes a bunch of these kinds of movies. And I thought I would love to get the filmmaking perspective on these movies. So stay with us. All right, so we're back here on Flix Revolution. We've got Mike Donis, who is no stranger to these airwaves, I guess. Do we still say airwaves, Mike?
I mean, we can say airwaves. We might as well.
Yeah, right. Who's going to stop us? Mike, whoever would have thought that having you cut A Chance of Snow would begin an entire career for you. But you're on our Christmas episode. I talked about in the opening how people need to quit poo-pooing these sort of made-for-TV Christmas movies, that they are a genre of themselves. They're not trying to be anything but what they are. And I thought it was really cool because you basically have edited like a half dozen of these things. I was going to make a joke like 1,000, but first of all, talk to me a little bit about just kind of how you got the gig in general terms, and then your first feeling when you found out that it was going to be so Christmas centric.
Well, okay. So, I mean, the way I got the gig was I started working with Brainpower Studio, just doing freelance stuff. They were working on a TV series that they were doing at the time, and they just needed a little extra help finishing off a couple of extra days of assemblies. And so one of their senior editors there, Chris Cull, who I'd actually met through the indie film circuit, so he's just a friend and colleague of mine. Just gave me a call one day and he was like, "Hey man, look, can you just help out for like a couple days here and there?" And then I started and it kind of went well, and we all got along as you would hope. And so it just sort of snowballed, no pun intended. And eventually what happened was, after about a year of freelancing periodically just here and there, a different senior editor was going on maternity leave, and so they needed somebody to cover for her. And so they just asked me, would I be down? And so of course I was like, sure. This was early 2021 now, so I'm coming up on my finishing my second year working with them full time, because after the maternity leave thing was finished, they offered me an official position with the company to stay on. So yeah, it just sort of started like piece by piece, and now I'm one of the senior editors, which is really, really cool.
So now the second part of the question, because obviously it's not 100% Christmas movies, right? Like you've got credits with Tony Braxton and others, but it's a lion's share of Christmas movies. We live in the world where we understand that is something that in the kind of TV streaming space is a relatively safe bet for a studio. It's a safe bet for everyone but Twitch It Off and Flix, but where am I? But so what were your first feelings though when you found out, okay, I'm going to be working on Christmas movies? And second question, those kinds of Christmas movies.
Right. Well, it's like Christmas movies have always sort of been with me. My very first credit on the IMDb is from 2004. It was a movie that I'd made in high school, and it was called Gray Christmas. And it's of course not anything like a TV Christmas movie. There's lots of vulgarity and it was quite, it was like satirical in the fact that it's all set around this lovey-dovey time, and yet it's this horrible story about horrible people. But it's still a Christmas movie, and and then working on Chance of Snow, when we were making a more traditional style Christmas movie, that actually sort of turned me onto them. I never watched much of them. The Christmas movies that I would watch are like Muppet Christmas Carol and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so the sort of the stuff that had come out, from Hallmark or Lifetime and all of those movies, I didn't have network TV, so I just didn't. They really kind of started within the last 10 or so years, and I just don't have network TV, so I just wasn't watching them, and brushed up on some of them when we were going to be working on Chance of Snow, and so then it sort of just I realized how much of a hit these things were. Like it's like they do their thing, and they have such a huge audience. Like there are so many people, and there's different kinds of audience members too, which is kind of neat. Like you've got your people that are like your diehards, and they watch like every single one, people like you.
Yeah.
And then you've got some people that just like at Christmas time they have it running in the background, as instead of Christmas music playing, they have Christmas movies playing on their TV while they hang out and just have conversations and stuff, and they sort of like peek in from time to time and follow the storyline as best they can, and so it was exciting. I guess that's my long-winded answer. It was actually exciting because it was like I come from a background working in indie film where a lot of the time you're making stuff that you want to make, but you have no idea who's going to end up watching it, and therefore like you are making stuff the exact way that you want to make it, but you almost don't know who you're making it for other than yourself. And so this is almost in some ways like the opposite of that, and which was cool, because the showman in me gets to be excited of making something for a specific
that people are going to see.
I know people are going to see it, and I know that there are people that love these things. Like I'm not questioning what when I'm making a thing about pirates with lasers or whatever. I don't know if anyone's going to care about that. I'm just doing it because I think it's fun. I know for a fact that there are going to be a lot of people that love these Christmas movies that we're working on. So
Well,
it's inspiring, to get through. To get through your day, one of the elements that's just super, super fun is knowing that people are going to love this when you're done with it. So
it's interesting because, yeah, I mean, I kind of vaguely remember the conversation we had, because I've actually long been a fan of these. Like, I am the guy who prints up the checklist and I check them off. And actually this year I went super intense and I made a grid of 100 Christmas movies. All the posters are black and white. When I click on it and delete it, it turns into color, and then I'll know. So
I'll be color when you're done, and you'll
it'll be color. And like, of course, a lot of it's the classics, and a lot of it is, what I just watched the other night, which was Married Christmas, I think it was called. We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Yeah, super cute. Yeah. So I was already kind of on board.
Mhm.
I don't think these movies are bad. People think these movies are bad. I think these movies are like Sharknado. They are exactly what they want to be. How long did it take you to figure out that's what it is, and then this is what these movies are?
Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible for me, I think, being who I am, to make these movies without respecting them.
True.
I'm not the guy who will just sign up for something to cash a check and go home. You know what I mean? And so I sort of always, I approach them when I said before that I didn't watch them. It wasn't like I don't watch those with any kind of, superiority. It was just I literally didn't watch them. And so, when I sort of started and was discovering this whole subculture of Christmas movie fans that exist, it was really cool. And you start seeing the different movies, and there are little trends that'll come and go over the like happens with any genre, you know what I mean? And now, like, for example, for the longest time, it was the thing that at the end of all of these movies, people will get married. Well, now you're seeing in a lot of these movies that they'll make a joke about how, wouldn't it be funny if we got married? Ha ha ha, like that'll ever happen. And that's how they'll end now sometimes. And so it's like, they're sort of like responding to the talk back that some of the naysayers sometimes have, and in a charming sort of a way, like acknowledging it and then just being like, yeah, but these are still fun. Like, so watch it and enjoy it or don't. Like, that's sort of, you can tell that in the writing and in the approach of them all, that's sort of where it's coming from. These are creative products that are being made for people to enjoy, and as long as people are enjoying them, I think that there's absolutely a reason to just keep at it.
Yeah. Talk to me about your role as editor. There's obviously a lot of different approaches you could take. You had when you would edit our stuff, a pretty liberal, approach. You were obviously welcome to try things, and we would figure out what works.
Yeah.
Is it kind of the same thing here, or are you, because you're getting, I mean, like I said, you have 3 premiering this year.
I think, I believe, we go through them pretty quick. I think in total I cut 7 movies this year. 3 of them are Christmas movies coming out this year, there's 4 coming out this year, and then there's 1 that we did that's coming out next year. And then there were 2 like murder mysteries that the studio did with
Toni Braxton.
They turned out great.
She's gonna unbreak my heart. You know what I'm saying? Okay. No, I always had a big crush on her. Big crush. But yeah, so your role as editor. Okay, now that you're talking about, you have to get him out.
Yeah.
Is there still opportunity for you to put a Mike Donis stamp on it?
There really actually is. There've been a couple of times so far where, part of the thing too, and it doesn't happen all the time. It's each movie is sort of its own thing, because there are different directors working on them, there are different writers working on them. Even though we're all the same studio making the thing, there's a revolving team, and I'm not the only editor as well, right? They have other editors, and so sometimes like with any movie, you're faced with a situation of, this isn't necessarily working the way that we'd intended. Let's see how we can, figure it out and make it work. And a lot of the time they're like, Mike, go do your thing. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And then I just try. And I mean, sometimes they say, Mike, what the hell are you doing? And sometimes they say, that's really cool. We didn't think of doing it that way. Let's run with it. And
like,
so
lay off the crack, Mike.
The cookies, it's Christmas.
The Christmas, totally. That's a very Hallmark Christmas movie thing to say. Oh, I need a cocoa.
But I do feel like there is a lot. I mean, obviously you're working in TV, so
Sure.
at the end of the day, there's a very defined hierarchy, and you've got the networks that get final say on everything, and you've got the studio heads that have their say before the networks have their say, and then the directors have their say as well, and so there are a lot of people whose ideas take precedence over mine. But sometimes, they've always been willing to listen to my ideas, and I feel like that is my job. Like we've had that conversation before. If I do, think, oh, here would be a way that we could take it that would be the way. They always want me to voice it and show them an example of what I'm talking about too, and see if it works. Because it is I can't speak for how other studios run, but Brainpower is pretty cool like that. Like there's a lot of mutual respect amongst the team members, and so because of that, I feel like there are a lot of opportunities to sort of do your thing and try it out, and then try it out amongst the team and see what the team thinks, and then sort of move forward from there based on what the consensus is about it. Because I'm one of the lead editors, I get to, as an editor, sometimes make the boldest editorial decisions because of that. Because
okay. I mean, I love that you have that, because I think that's the key to like real collaboration, is making everybody feel like they're part of the decision. That way you cannot take your advice one day, but at least you feel heard. You feel like, and then they take it enough that you realize, okay, maybe this wasn't the right choice. I guess I want to play some fun trivia, not trivia, but I want to play some fun Christmas movie rapid fire games or questions for you.
Boy, okay. All right.
What is in your mind the sweetest Christmas movie that you've ever seen?
Are we talking specifically about TV movies, or are we talking?
No, I mean, you can even go, in fact, it might be better to go box office ones, since, a lot of our audience is jaded and haven't fallen in love with TV Christmas movies yet.
All right.
Except for Carlo.
The sweetest, I will probably say, is Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's impossible to not shed a tear at the end of that movie. And it's like Michael Caine's performance is so actually real. Like it's you forget that he's acting with puppets.
I mean, you could make the argument he is the best Scrooge, and people would have to at least listen to you.
Yeah, I agree. And the way that they played, because it's a musical too. The songs callback at the end actually helps like musically hit you. So like not just from a story standpoint, but from an actual like cinematics standpoint, it really pulls at the heartstrings and makes you tear up.
Yeah. So what do you think is the funniest Christmas movie?
The funniest Christmas movie.
That's hard to answer.
Scrooged.
Wow. Okay.
I really like Scrooged.
Yeah, dude. Scrooge not only is funniest, but his monologue at the end, you could argue that that's the sweetest Christmas. I mean, that's such a Bill Murray being Bill Murray, but
they're also the same story. I just realized. So literally the same story.
You got a thing. Okay.
I do.
What about the saddest Christmas movie?
The saddest Christmas movie. Oh.
And you can't say Christmas Shoes because we don't acknowledge that as a piece of cinema on this show. Rob Lowe or no?
Gosh, you know what? I avoid sad Christmas movies. That's the thing. So I honestly don't know. I mean, there are elements in the Santa Claus that hit me personally for a lot of reasons.
Okay.
So from maybe a personal standpoint, I don't know that it necessarily would work that way on everybody. So to say it is the saddest, I don't know. But maybe for me, there are some story beats that affect me. So
yeah. I love the first two of those movies, and I'm loving the series, but I got a thing for Mrs. Clausens too, so she's a smoke show.
She is. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Last one.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that's often been debated in popular culture.
Okay.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie for you or not? And why or why not?
It is a Christmas movie for me. And the reason is that it has become a tradition for me with friends to watch Die Hard at Christmas. So it, as literally as you can get, is a movie that I specifically watch to get into the Christmas spirit. So regardless of what anybody says in terms of its actual story merit as to that category, the fact that I watch it that way and the fact that many people watch it that way,
Yeah.
I think it objectively is one, whether you like the movie or not, or whether you want to watch it at Christmas or not.
It's one of 5 that Jessica and I must watch together, and we must watch it towards the end of the season. It's like it's a culmination of that and Elf and Santa Claus and Christmas Story and Vacation. I would even argue from a narrative perspective, it's about a guy who comes down from on high to deliver his family from evil.
There you go. Well said.
Just like Jesus. Well, Mike, thanks for, you're obviously going to be a regular on this show going forward, as you have been, but I really do appreciate you sitting down with us and kind of sharing some of the insight of what it's like to kind of be an editor on these things. Cause I do think it's very easy to laugh and poke fun at and then disregard them. And I think I think people are missing out on some real positivity in a pretty unpositive world by doing that.
I think so too. And thanks for having me. It was fun. It's I think the first time I've ever talked about these movies with anybody officially before. So that's cool.
Well, don't forget to give me Tony Braxton's number when you're done. And thanks for jumping on Flix Revolution. So that does wrap up Flix Revolution. Again, your official show for the #1 reviewed film festival on Film Freeway, the Austin Revolution Film Festival. Now, again, if you have a movie and you haven't gotten it submitted, I highly recommend you do it. Like, hit pause on the episode and get it submitted to us. There's not very much time left. And one of the things filmmakers often want to do, and I get it because I've been there, is you want to go in with as much opportunity to make sure that your film is seen and judged the way you want it to be judged by the film festival. And I think sometimes that leads to filmmakers to overwrite a cover letter. I will tell you this, for us, and again, every festival is different, cover letter should be really short. It should be concise. It should almost be bullet points. And some of the things that I would want to know is, did somebody recommend you for the fest? Do you have a friend who's an alum? Maybe some big festivals you've played. But, Austin Revolution at its height was getting 3,000 submissions a season. That's 3,000 cover letters. I think the same thing applies to when you're submitting a script, right? If you submit these big blocks of text, people's eyes kind of gloss over. So I think keep it short, keep it consistent. You're basically trying to point out exactly why we are wanting to take your film. Avoid sort of cliches like, oh, it's my passion project, or we worked very hard on it, or, oh, I just really believe in this film, because every other filmmaker feels the same way. I've never had one time a filmmaker submit a film in the cover letter saying, you know what, take it or leave it, it's fine. Think about how your festival fits in the program and tell me that in like 2 sentences. And if you have another connection to the festival, these are all things that maybe aren't taken into account for the judging process that much. But you know what? If films are equally scored and you've got a good cover letter that tells me exactly why I need to play your film versus you've written the Magna Carta, you're probably going to have a better odds of getting in. And that's just the politics of the whole thing. Fit, connection, why you submitted, that sort of thing. Staying away from, oh, it's my passion project, or, oh, we didn't have any money. We all know. Nobody does. That's the way it works. But that is our episode today. Again, check out some Hallmark movies. We're going to be back next week to talk a little bit about war movies and most focused on the cinematic swing and a miss that is Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. So until then, enjoy the warm-up to the Christmas holiday, and y'all keep shooting.
Flix Revolution is produced by Twitchy Dolphin Media and joins Let's Get 2, Go Go Astros, and Yell Fight Suey as part of the Twitchy Dolphin Media Network.